like we had a few folks who joined us at 10:30, and I asked them to just come on over to 11 o'clock if they hadn't been on the whole time. And I think Kay Monaco is joined us for that reason. She had a question. Morning, Kay.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all again. Actually, it was just a follow-up, and I don't know if I need to follow up. It was that last conversation on messaging I thought was really, really interesting. And I do think as Democrats, we just miss the message so often. And the Republicans are great at it. They are really, really, really good at it. I have been listening to podcasts about how we might improve our messaging. And one little brief snippet I heard was from Mike Madrid, who used to be part of Politicology, and they were the ones that started the Lincoln Project, and he is a Republican, I guess, and said that when he had joined a caucus to discuss things with Democrats, and they had all the Lincoln Project, and they had these big heavy hitter Democratic funders there, that it was really interesting because all the Democratic funders were saying, what's the one policy we can get that would really help us win? And let's talk about a policy and let's find a policy. And he was just sitting there saying, well, these people are really crazy. But Republicans don't do that. Republicans just go out and talk about issues and just say something that they're not worried about a policy or passing a policy, and that Build Back Better is not going to succeed in 2024 when we come around, because people will have forgotten all of it and it's not important. And that Democrats have kind of missed that idea that you have to talk about the things that people are just really interested in, and it has to be short, has to be to the point, and it's not some big policy. We created all these jobs, we've done all this stuff. So I'm struggling. I'd love to hear a conversation about what people think would really resonate with us as Democrats.
I would say we need to get Randy McGinn in front of a larger audience and probably on Zoom. She is spectacular. She did a presentation at Indivisible, and it was kind of a workshop thing, and it was fantastic. So either at the party level or maybe Flora here at the Bernalillo County level, we need to get her to be that guest speaker. And then people have to listen to what she's saying and do it. I think Sally Davis, with the blue CD2NM, is very good with messaging, but it needs to really be party-wide, Kay. I completely agree. We are in a battle. Politics is a battle. With the two-party system, you have to look at it. You got to get on a war footing. You got to take the offensive, and you got to ignore the other side or trample them first. And it's a sad thing to say, and I wish it wasn't that way, but that's what the Republicans are doing, and they don't have a majority in this country, and they win.
I think one of the advantages that Randy had is that when she ran for office, she had not run for a public office like that before. And so she came in with fresh eyes and was looking at some of what we do and in the Democratic Party that we take for granted, that we just do because we've been doing it forever. And that's not to say she's not a strong Democrat and has not always been one, but if you're doing politics, you kind of have tended to come at it in a certain way. And she just looked at that and said, this doesn't make sense. Why? How come? This is crazy. Why are people saying that I have to do it that way, or that this is the way it goes? And I think you're right, Claudia, just a fresh look at that and saying, let's create a new way of doing business, and let's take a page from the Republican playbook. I heard you say that one of the things Randy said is they have these 3-word chants that kind of grab the people's interests. We don't have those, and we kind of resist it because we feel like it is that it's stupid, that it's coarse, that it's all kinds of things. Lock her up. You can't imagine yourself as a Democrat standing, I can't imagine myself as a Democrat standing somewhere and saying, chanting about Trump, lock him up. I mean, although I might agree with that, it just doesn't appeal to me as a Democrat. But we have to find something that works for Democrats that's like that.
I agree. Maybe we need to hire a Republican communications firm. I'm sure they'll go with a higher bidder, but it's so true. So Greg just put a very helpful link in the chat, a majority 54. You want to talk about that briefly, Greg?
Yeah. That's a podcast that I'm a big fan of. I listen to many podcasts. Jason Kander hosts that, a majority 54. He's a veteran, a U.S. Army veteran, served in Afghanistan and Iraq, I believe. And he hosts that podcast, and it's a lot about this conversation that we're all having, and about how, as a majority, we actually take power back. And one of the big things is that in many cases, he and his co-host frame their conversations in ways in which, how do you talk to your crazy MAGA uncle about this stuff? How do you talk to somebody who doesn't necessarily want to listen to, facts about these issues? And so there's a lot of, like, if you have to be at a family event, how are you going to explain this issue? They go into that in that podcast. I like him a lot. He also talks a lot about veterans' roles in how, veteran and military families can do a lot of speaking to service and to your country. And we could get past the Republican Democrat thing by saying, you know what, I'm a veteran, and talking about the things that you want to do in that context, instead of pulling it directly into the straight blue versus red context. And that changes a couple of ways that you can talk to people. You can get to the things that you might agree on first before you disagree. The other thing I just really quickly want to put out there, this is probably not a great one, but I keep thinking, if we're talking about Republicans, 3 words: full of it, right? That's one. We could keep coming up with some more, right? But I think it's important that as we talk, we really highlight the fact that they are all hat and no cattle. They don't do anything. They literally, all of their entire reactionary agenda is to tear down ideas, to stop anybody else from having anything. I've used the term in the past, club, we've got ours. That's what they are. They like things the way they are. They're club, we've got ours. And anybody else who wants to come in and try and do anything, they're not welcome in club, we've got ours. So those are a couple of things I just wanted to point out. Really great podcast. Give it a look.
I will. That's really great feedback. They're doing exactly what they do want to do. I have to differ with you here. They are the party of opposition, and they are for small government. So they're breaking things down for big government. They are achieving exactly what they want to achieve. And the second thing you said is exactly right. When I was running for office, I was only calling Republicans and declined to states who were right-leaning. And it was right away, what are you? And I said, I'm a veteran. And they go, oh, thank you for your service. I knew I was going to get that immediate response. And I said, yeah, I really appreciate that. And who in your family served? So we go down that rabbit hole for a little while. And then I come back and say, so here are a couple of issues that I'm really looking at. What's important to you? And I've had 20-minute conversations where they never asked what party I was from. They assumed I was a Republican, and the independents don't care because they vote for candidates. I mean, I only got 44%, but we only had 33% registered Dems. So I did convince many of them. And I think that's the tactic we need to say. We don't need to say, I'm a progressive, I'm a Democrat, I'm a conservative Democrat. And I had Democrats say, are you a progressive? And I said, I'm not really sure what a progressive is to you. So this is where I stand on issues. What do you think? Well, I like that. That's really great. So we didn't have to go into the whole thing about abortion and guns, because that's all they want to talk about. But I like your 3, we've got ours. And another one, when I lived in DC, I was stationed there a few times. I saw bumper stickers that said, go for broke, vote Republican. And we need to point out that our biggest deficits are always under Republican administrations. They are the ones that tend to bring us into these wars that are extremely expensive. Go for broke, vote Republican. It works nationally, and it works here as well in New Mexico. Just some thoughts. Oh, and one thing, the Indivisible Albuquerque, they had Crooks for Manny, and that was their campaign for Mayor Keller against Manny, the sheriff. And I thought that was very clever and pretty negative for a Democratic group. So my hat's off to him.
I like what Greg said, the other one, full of it. I thought that was good too, Greg.
Just I mean, I love to call them out on it. Be like, tell me something positive that you've done. What hard work have you done for the people? All you do is tear it down. You are full of it. And I love to kind of push that narrative, right? Put them on the defensive, make them prove that they're out to actually help people, right? They have nothing to offer except being haters, right? You know, what is it? I don't know. I don't know. There's a 3-word thing there we could do with haters. I got to figure out what that is, but nothing but haters. The other thing I would say is, and you mentioned this, Kay,
veterans against haters.
Maybe. Kay mentioned bringing up other people too. That's a huge one, right? When I first started getting involved with Dem politics, it was right when Trump got elected, and I was just retiring from the Air Force. And it was I just felt like I had to do something, and I didn't know what to do. And so it was a long journey to try and figure out how to become a precinct chair and work with work your way into the party, figure out where to be effective, where your skills are going to be needed. We really have to be building a deep bench of young people, because the younger folks and just any folks who want to get involved, they're going to become the campaign staffers, they're going to become the volunteers, they're going to eventually become paid actual staffers. And then one day, hopefully, I've seen this happen with my colleagues, and perhaps one day myself, run for office. Those of us who started as campaign volunteers for Deb, of that group, there's already 2 that have run for office. There's a 3rd one now, and we're probably going to have a couple more out of that group, right? Sophia Sanchez just did emerge. So of Deb's staff that we had in the Congress, I mean, I think 5, there's a good chance that 5 of her staffers are going to end up running for office. And that's building a bench, right? That long-term thing. And we got to do that. We've got to bring a lot of new people in for folks to get excited about, because one thing is you're going to vote for the person you connect with, right? So we've got to bring a bunch of different flavors and folks from all different areas in, so we can find people who can connect to different segments in the Democrat world, right? Yeah. And anyway, I'll just stop there, but recruitment and bringing folks up is big.
And that's a main tenet of our caucus. So we've got 2 veterans right now running for office. Josh Jones is a combat vet, 12 years, and he's running for District 3 City Council Rio Rancho. The election's in May. And Barbara Jordan is a career retired combat veteran, and she's running for mayor of Rio Rancho. And the 2 of them are spectacular, but they're 2 veterans and they're running for office, and the election is 1 March. So we're throwing everything we have in the caucus in to help them. We've got a candidate outreach committee and a director of candidate development, and we're working with their campaign managers and helping them talk about, the leadership, the experiences, and the lifetime of service that they have as veterans already, and that their focus is on their community there in Rio Rancho. So I think it's such a natural thing to go from serving in the military to continue service. It's an easy thread to pull, and it's one that appeals to Republicans. And these are nonpartisan races.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they can do.
As a Democrat, as a non-vet, and I don't want to take too much of this conversation, so if I'm talking too much, just shut me up. But as a non-veteran, I have a bias, I guess. I was thinking about it when Greg was talking, because I think my assumption is that most vets are very conservative and are Republicans, even though I know that's not true. My brother was in Vietnam and is a Democrat. Even though I know that's not true, there is an idea of the military, I think, that non-military people like me have. And that's why I think that your voice as veterans is so powerful to everybody, to DTS, Republicans, Democrats, because it really speaks to what you were just saying, Claudia, about service and about who you are and why you went into service and why you continue your service. And I'd love us to have some messaging around that, because I think that message that you just said is such a powerful one across party lines. And I think that Democrats don't think like that much. I mean, a lot of Democrats like me. And you had almost a three-worder there, Claudia, and I kind of missed it, but you just almost had one. And maybe it was about service, vets continuing to serve, or I don't know, but something about your service really grabbed me. And I thought, wow, that is really powerful. So anyway.
We need to work on that. That's a good idea, Kay. But I really think so. And I think if the Democratic Party would open up a little bit and recognize their prejudice, as you're stating, which I've heard from many others, and let that go and bring veterans in, we're going to increase the number in the party. And not all veterans are conservative or progressive, and who the hell cares as long as they're Democrats, right?
Right.
I mean, we can't be a big tent divided.
Right.
We're spending all our time on friendly fire because you're not as progressive as her or him or whatever.
Yeah.
We're shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're doing the work of the Republican Party. So we shouldn't be their ally. We need to ally with each other and let it go. Spike, I'd like to turn this over to you. And you got a question, but I'd love to hear, your service, and then you've run for office and what you have been doing forever for the Democrats. I mean, you're spectacular.
Thank you. Kay, can you hear me? Kay, I'm the vice chair at large for the Veterans Caucus, and I'm a resident of the East Mountains, and I'm broadcasting from the East Mountain Democratic Office in Cedar Crest. And my background, my family, from the end of World War II until the end of the 20th century, my mother was a member of the League of Women Voters. She joined up after my dad came back from World War II and remained active until 2000, when her mother, my grandmother, passed away at the age of 100. My father was in the Army Air Corps in the European theater. My aunt was in the Navy in the Pacific. My New Mexico connection, when my aunt was at Pearl Harbor, she had a barracks mate. They had barracks back then, no dorms. She had a barracks mate from Albuquerque, New Mexico, who said to her, when this is all over and if we survive it, why don't you come out and live in Albuquerque? And she didn't know where Albuquerque was, but she told her barracks mate, well, I'm never going to go back to Texas and live with my mother. So in November of 1945, she left the Navy, took the train from San Francisco, stopped in Albuquerque, got off the train at the corner of First and Central. She embellished this stories over the years, so how much of this is really true, I don't know. But she walks to her barracks mate's house and knocks on the door and says, here I am. And they went to UNM on the GI Bill. And she went back to Texas for my father's memorial service, but I think that was about it, slight exaggeration. So her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren were all born here. So that's my New Mexico family connection. I told the audience in Estancia back in 16, my New Mexico connection is that my family's been here for 3 generations, but some of you in the audience, you've been here for 300 generations, so I have some catching up to do. Some of us call me Harold, and some call me Spike. Harold is my twin brother, so I told Jim White, who was my Republican opponent at the time, we always think there ought to be, no one should run unopposed, so if you don't like Spike, you can always vote for Harold. And Jim got a real kick out of that. He was an Air Force veteran like me. We were even stationed at some of the same bases. So whenever we got together during the campaign, we hardly ever talked issues. We mostly talked about the Air Force and the bases we liked and we didn't like. So we bonded over that.
And I want to just add in that they were both running for Senate District 19 at the same time. And you probably knew that, Kay, but
The topic Kay brought up, and this will be my last remark. There is at the national level, there is a Veterans and Military Families Council. Veterans and Military Families Council, which is a subset of the DNC. And several months ago, we had a meeting, a Zoom, and the DNC has a veterans chapter in most every state, except New Mexico. And they don't need to have one here because we're here. Anyway, the point was, things have actually changed. 28 members of Congress are Democrats and vets. In the days of Daniel Inouye and Robert Dole, 3/4 of the members of Congress were veterans because of World War II and Korea. And then we've gone through a dearth of veterans in Congress. That's changing a little bit because of Afghanistan and Iraq. We have more veterans in Congress now than 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago, in both parties. And we're thinking that with common ground, just like Robert Dole, Republican from Kansas, could talk with Daniel Inouye of Hawaii, so can the Afghanistan and Iraqi veteran talk to each other on the floor of Congress. So as more veterans get elected, whether they're progressive Democrats or centrist Democrats or Republicans like Adam Kinzinger or Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's going to be more tendency to cooperate and talk to each other. So those veterans who were basically my nieces and nephews' age, in their 30s and 40s and 50s, may actually be able to tone things down in the next several years as us baby boomers pass the baton to them. One thing, last thing, in 2020, more active duty and more veterans voted for the Democratic presidential candidate than the Republican candidate. First time since FDR. Significant change. Veterans and active duty military, reservists and National Guard, the majority of them voted for Joe Biden, not Mr. Trump.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And I'm going to publish an article, or have Claudia publish an article, a summary of the change. For the first time, the officer corps, which leans Democrat, Republican, did not necessarily vote Republican. Anyway, enough of that. If I get too much into detail, I get accused of being a wonky Democrat. We get too wonky. So I'll leave you with a broad brush.
that is a wonderful point to bring up. And please do send me that information. I'd love to put it, especially on our website, but certainly in the next newsletter. In case, since we're kind of running out of time, I'll put a link there. And if you want to take a look at the 12 issues that we're advocating for this year, I started going through them on the first half hour. But Dorothy Seaton, who is the vice chair of the Committee for Veterans Advocacy in our caucus, and I briefed the governor's staff, her chief operations officer, and about 4 other members. We went through all of these. They were well received. And then we have had 2 meetings with 22 legislators in total. One was last week, and we went through all of these, and we asked who's going to sponsor, who's going to co-sponsor, and is there anyone who's got any questions or issues on why they would not vote to pass. And we did this on the 29th and on the 7th, and I've had 5 of them offline because they couldn't make the timing. So we're trying to build this coalition. We're just working with the Democrats now, but I am happy to work with Republicans. Like Spike says, I think the veterans can be a liaison, kind of a conduit for some civil conversation and compromise to get some stuff done and stop fighting with each other. We got to get out of this civil war mode and start working together as a country. It's ridiculous.
I think that what Spike just said about veterans and military people voting, more of them voting for Biden than for Trump, is such a powerful statement. It is such a powerful statement to non-voting Democrats and to DTS and to others, because it says something about people who are fighting for our country, have fought for our country, have served for our country, and where they think the direction of our country should be going. And just that statement alone, I think, is a really powerful one for us to get out.
I think you're right.
You know?
Yeah. Spike, let's get on that. Let's work on that. Kay, if when Spike writes this up, could we bounce it off you?
Yes. Love to.
Okay, that would be wonderful. That's really a good point. You know, I've been thinking about this for a while. When you join the military, you take an oath to the Constitution.
Right.
We do this for our country. And I've been a Republican, I've been independent. I typically vote for the candidate I like. Our loyalty isn't with the party, any party. Our loyalty is to the country. So it's a lot easier to talk to veterans who may typically have voted Republican when they see the nightmare of 4 years and the insurrection and say, this is not what I stand for. This is not what I serve for. This is not helping our country. I'm voting for Mr. Biden. And they did. And you can count on them to probably be swing voters, but we got to talk about them. People of, you know, we say, you know, people of color, people experiencing homelessness, you know, all kinds of groups. When's the last time you heard a Democrat say, and our veterans and military families?
Right, right. And
what are they afraid of? Are they afraid too many people will come and vote? Too many veterans will vote for Democrats? Will they be accused of being the party of veterans?
How nice, you know, but I really think it's really, really important. I think it gets lost. And I think what you just said, I mean, I've been looking for what's the crossover issue that I could talk to Republicans about. You know, I'm a little, they're not all bad people. They're not horrible human beings, and they love
the vast majority are not bad. They're good people. They got into the military.
No, and they love their children, and not just vets. I mean, just the regular run-of-the-mill. You know, how can we begin to bridge what you call this kind of civil war that we have and going on in our country? And this issue seems to me to be a great one to talk about veterans voting for the country and voting for the Constitution and voting for America. I think that that's persuasive to many people. You know?
That's a good point.
It's
we need to bring out the point. You don't need to be loyal to the party. You need to be loyal to the country. And if we have party members who are not loyal to the country, they're not our leaders.
Right.
Regardless of what party. Yes, sir, Spike.
Well,
Hey, Sheila.
I was just going to say the party. Charlotte, hello. Anyway, I remember JFK once said, sometimes party loyalty asks too much. Sometimes party loyalty asks too much. So yeah, the country first, the party second or third. And about 6 months ago, Merritt Hamilton Allen wrote an article in The Independent, Memorial Day 2021, Why We Serve Despite Political Polarization. And she talks about veterans and how and why they serve despite the polarization. I won't read the whole article to you right now because I know you want me to, but I refuse to do it because it's so short. Okay, and I have an anecdote next time. Andrew Jackson is president. I know he's a mixed bag when it comes to being a good president, but there's a story about Andrew Jackson which applies to veterans that I think you all would like.
Spike, we're gonna talk. We gotta get this stuff on the airwaves. Charlotte, you remember meeting, oh gosh, I just lost her name. Spike, who's the journalist you just mentioned?
Merritt.
Merritt.
Hamilton.
So you remember going out to her house and meeting her?
Yeah, she was a trip. She's the Republican who is supporting Claudia for her Senate campaign. And it was refreshing. We certainly didn't agree on everything, especially at the time. Remember, everyone was unvaccinated and she was like, come on in, no masks here. And I was like, oh my God.
So Charlotte's got
about
a
died. I'm like,
sustainable turtleneck.
it's my duty to go in this house right now. I got on the phone. But when it came to this topic, she was quite enlightened and just rational. Yeah.
And she was, you're exactly right. I like that quote from JFK, Spike. Sometimes party loyalty asks too much. And I think we can apply that to a lot of Republicans now who have walked away from Trump and are looking to figure out a way forward. And there's a lot of them. And I think that group is building, but this is exactly right. The GOP has asked too much of normal citizens who love their country, and they have to walk away from it if they're going to stay with him.
It's great. It's a great thing.
Well, we are 4 minutes over our time.
No one came to my last session, so I came and bombarded yours.
There are so many people trying to get into this expo still, Charla. It's just a
I
shame.
know. I don't think half of the people that wanted to come, you were able to come.
Including speakers.
I was trying to like make my session look really exciting because you know how you can see it in the lobby. I was like, and I was like, 1, 2, 3. Ah! But no one came. No one fell for my tricks. It was awesome.
Katie, when are you going to get more involved with the Veterans Caucus?
Maybe soon.
Awesome.
Am I on your email list? I don't get email stuff from you.
Oh, she sends the
Join.
best emails.
I joined, you know.
Kate, do you want to help me with Representative Martinez's nominating petitions by chance? Can I email you a sheet?
Um,
Are you still Javier, right? Yeah.
yeah, sure. Email me a sheet and I'll help.
I have all the approved ones.
Okay, good. Send me
How
one.
about you, Greg? Can I email you a sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, email me a sheet. I'm already
Spike,
working
I
on
think you've
Melanie's, so
got-
I'd be happy to take that with me.
Okay, great. Spike, you have Representative McQueen now? Is that where you moved into McQueen?
No, he's still living the dream here with Representative Lord. But Spike, if you want to help, I'm working with Evelyn, with Charla, with everybody to try to get, what do you need? 200 signatures for
For Matthew?
Matthew?
For Representative McQueen, I mean. Yeah, we need.
Sorry, not on mute.
It's 213. Mhm.
So maybe you could give Spike a sheet or two and you could have it up. Oh, no, you need to call his people. We can't have anybody else sign.
Yeah, that's okay. I think you guys got Edgewood under wraps and I've
So
got.
Kate, I want to ask you a quick question. I've got your email as being kmonaco@msn.com.
It's correct. Maybe it's been going into junk because I haven't.
It is. It is. So if you go in there and if you put in nmvetscaucus@gmail.com, you will probably see several months worth of newsletters and that kind of stuff. But anyway, please go on our website. Sometimes, yeah, when you're not on the gmail.com, sometimes it's a little bit harder, but we have a lot of other members on MSN and some of the other servers.
And it's not com, it's org, right? nmvets.org, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and right under it, I even put the website so you can click onto that.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Got it.
But our emails go out from nmvetscaucus@gmail.com.
Okay.
But let's talk. If you can't find him today, please give me a ring this afternoon. Let's get you set up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
you guys.
thanks for talking with us. It was really great having you.
I like being here.
And,
It's like
you know,
you're-
I think what we've identified is that veterans and military families can be that bridging issue
Yep,
between parties
yep.
to get people to calm down a little bit and actually work together on things. So
Right.
let's
That's
work on that. Hi, Flora.
There's our Madam Chair.
I was like,
No one
oh,
came to my
look,
last session.
I'm
so
gonna go join those cool people. Look at all.
We're just kind of coming
On and
together.
on.
I think it went well, Flora. I had 2 sessions filled, but the last one, no one came. And that's okay.
Yeah, well, we got to get you some more, exposure there, Charlotte, definitely for our executive committee meeting on Tuesday, and then see what else we can do because your work is really important. I mean, that's the meat of what we're doing. So
Thank
we
you.
gotta, see what we can do to get people there. This was ambitious.
Yeah, the new technology.
I like the technology. It's cool. The
It's
events
cool.
thing is cool.
Yeah, when you get out in the lobby, it's like, ooh, I can go click here and I can go click there. It's really, it's fun, if you get in. But, there's a lot of people that weren't able to get in. And like, there's somebody sent me some stuff on Facebook that they're saying that we purposely locked people out and, this
I
kind
don't
of.
know why people had such a hard time. It was so easy. And then negotiating it was so easy.
It
I wonder
was
what
if you
happened.
started early. What I'm finding is that people were trying to come in a little later. For whatever reason, the ticket didn't seem to work. Like Spike, you had a problem initially, and then we connected you with Ivan and he walked you through it. But Sandy couldn't get in, Heather couldn't get in, Rocky, a lot of people just couldn't get in.
Well, and I think too with Heather and Rocky, they were trying to share a ticket. You can't share a ticket. And I told them that you can't share, and you have to, some people are logged in to accounts. Like I couldn't get in whenever I was logged into the DPBC account. And I realized that I'm like, okay, I've got to log out of, in all my browsers, log out of the DPBC account and then log into my personal account to get in, because that's what my ticket had, was that account. And so, it's just like they have you go through the 2 different hoops, because events is one app